Have you been wondering how much of your soul you need to sell in order to buy a house like this, or even this? Wonder no more. Today we'll break down exactly how much income it takes to buy a home in Canada. While 2 out of 3 Canadians are homeowners, buying a home is likely the biggest purchase that most of us will ever make in our life. So this process takes careful planning and preparation. The amount of money that you need to earn to afford a home really depends on where you want to live, the size of your home, and your financials. There are 5 main components that we want to look at to determine how much home you can afford. First is the down payment. This is the initial amount that you pay when you buy a house. You can't just buy a home with zero cash. In Canada, you need at least 5% of the home's price for down payment. But aiming for 20% is typically recommended because it helps avoid extra costs like mortgage insurance and extra interest. Mortgage insurance is mandatory for transactions with less than 20% down payment, but only properties that cost less than $1 million are eligible for this insurance. So if you want to buy a home that's above $1 million, you must have at least 20% of down payment. The cool perk of the insurance is that it helps you get a lower interest rate on your mortgage with the bank, since it reduces the bank's risks of losing money in case you cannot pay it. So with that, you may very well be saving more money in the long run by making a lower down payment and purchasing insurance. And by the way, this is not financial advice. So when you purchase the insurance premium, you can do so upfront in cash, at which point you should add an extra amount to your down payment goal. Or you can add it to your mortgage and pay it off within your regular mortgage payments. The insurance premium sits somewhere between 2 to 4% of the total home value. So, the down payment is the initial amount that you need to save in order to unlock home buying conversations. If you haven't started saving up yet, start by opening up a savings account as soon as possible. You can start by saving in your TFSA and RRSP accounts, since these accounts offer tax shelter benefits which will help you save faster. By the way, one statistic that blew my mind is that only 39% of Canadian population hold an open TFSA account, and only 35% contribute to an RRSP account. So if you commit to opening and contributing to these accounts, you're already financially ahead of 2/3 of the country's population. We made a separate video talking about TFSA and RRSP in depth, so you can check it out here if you're interested. The savings don't just stop at down payment though. The finance experts recommend that you have at least 30% of the home value saved up. That 30% includes the 20% of the down payment and leaves 10% in additional savings. These savings could provide a cushion should anything unexpected happen, and these expenses will occur when you buy a home. Trust me on that. So with that, if you want to buy a $500K home, you should have at least $150,000 in savings. So we know how much we need to save, but how much do we need to make? Your monthly income relative to the home price is crucial because that's what lenders look at to decide how much home you can afford. A great rule of thumb is your monthly housing costs, which consist of mortgage payments, property taxes, and utilities and condo fees, shouldn't be more than 32% of your monthly gross income before tax. So in this scenario, a single dweller working an average salary of $64,000 in Toronto technically should not be buying a home that costs more than $192,000. For a Winnipegger, this would be $150,000. Sounds surreal, and I don't even think you can find a single house in Canada at that price. Well, maybe a piece of undeveloped land on the shore of the Georgian Bay. So following this rule, if you want to buy a condo in Toronto, latest median price $640,000, you need to have a personal or a household income of $213,000. If you're a couple of two earning around $100K each, now that starts to sound pretty realistic. But wait, there's more. Total debt is another part of the equation when you think how much home you can afford. Lenders look at other debt that you already have when deciding how much money you can borrow and whether you can borrow at all. This includes other loans like a car, a student loan, and credit card payments. Banks say that your total debt shouldn't exceed 40% of your gross monthly income. One part that also influences your total potential debt is the interest rate. Interest rates impact the amount of debt that you would be taking on greatly. If we look at a $640,000 home purchase in Toronto with a 20% down payment, just 1% difference in interest will translate into around $300 of additional monthly payment for the next 25 years, or around $26,000 in total interest payments. That's massive. That is why the home prices tend to slightly go down when interest rates are high. People don't want to overpay on the interest and prefer to wait for better times. And that's where the last component comes into play: home prices. This is your biggest variable, since home prices vary significantly across Canada. Your average Toronto or Vancouver home may hover around $1 million, while the same type of home in Regina, Edmonton, or Saskatoon will be closer to $400,000. The total home price, in tandem with your interest rates, your down payment, and your income, will impact your monthly mortgage. The conservative rules state that your total monthly housing costs, which include utilities, insurance, and tax, should not greatly exceed 30 to 32% of your monthly gross income. So these are the 5 starting components for us to understand what goes into calculating how much home you can afford. You probably noticed that this calculation is more complex than renting. A general standard in renting is not to spend more than 30% of your gross income before taxes on your actual rent payments. It's pretty straightforward. And when you pay rent, it's just that, one number plus some additional costs like internet and maybe utilities. For instance, if you live in Toronto and make $64,000, which is an average income here, then you ideally should not spend more than $1,600 on your monthly rent. Or for a Winnipegger, it should not exceed $1,300. By the way, we have a video showing what you can afford to rent in different major cities in Canada for the same price. And you'll be shocked. You can check out this video out here or visit the links in the description box below. I know, these ideal rent numbers look surreal given the current housing and rental market prices. But these are the numbers to strive for if you want to have a comfortable financial situation. It obviously gets easier for couples and roommates since they can combine their budgets and either save more cash or rent a better home. Homeowners' costs are more complex. You have all these additional variables going on, and on top of that, there's also random home maintenance things that you simply don't need to think about as a tenant. Whatever gets broken, the maintenance costs are on you now. Home maintenance and renovation estimates are fuzzy, but some say that you should allocate around 1% of your entire home value on annual maintenance. So if your home price is $500,000, then you should allocate at least $5,000 a year or $400 a month on renovations and maintenance. By now, you probably realize that, as you're considering home ownership, the 30% of your gross income rule gets bloated with all these additional expenses, and it no longer makes sense. That is where it is recommended to have at least 30% of the home price saved up and have an additional financial cushion you could tap into should you lose your job or have any unexpected expenses. That's how you can make sure that you're not a slave to your mortgage payments, but a happy homeowner. There's also another recommendation from finance experts. Your home price should not be higher than 3x of your salary. So if you're a couple and making $250,000 annual, your maximum home value should not exceed $750,000. That's how you keep your financials safe and keep your sanity as a homeowner. When you go to a bank, you will likely be told that you need a lot less to qualify for a mortgage than that. They are a little more eager to lock you into a mortgage, so they will stretch your income to debt ratios a little bit more, depending on your circumstances, of course. That doesn't mean that you should buy the most expensive home that the mortgage value allows. Personally, we recommend to play conservative and stick to the 30-30-3 rule as much as you can. This is the best way to ensure that you don't become the slave of your own house, who's forced to work 2 jobs just to make the mortgage payments. When Anna and I were going through our own mortgage application process, we were approved for $1 million mortgage, but ended up buying a home just for under $800,000. That gave us monthly payments we were comfortable with and allowed us to keep enough savings and income on the side for additional expenses in case something happens, like renovations. The culture of home ownership in Canada is strong, and many cannot imagine a life other than a home ownership. And I can understand that. If you're making these big payments towards housing every month, they might as well go towards your own equity, not somebody else's. But we live in interesting times. The maths in a way that renting is more financially reasonable these days. Interest rates are high, and the prices are not going down. With 2 out of 3 Canadians as homeowners, majority of the Canadian population is simply not interested in housing prices to go down. Building homes is harder and more expensive than ever, so unless we find a way to 3D print homes like immediately, then the wisest thing you can do in this economy is optimize for saving more, picking up side hustles for extra cash, investing money wisely, and living frugally and sharing housing with someone to maximize your savings rate. That's what Anna and I did, and that's what helped us prepare for purchasing a home in just 5 years. If you want a more detailed understanding of the rent versus buy process, I highly recommend the New York Times calculator. It's very extensive, it's free, and it takes into account every single variable you can think of, including your opportunity cost. With that, you can see how much money you're actually leaving on the table by buying a home, as opposed to keeping the same cash in the stock market, let's say. Let me know in the comments below what your home buying story was, and if there's any advice that you give to folks who are considering buying a home today. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you to our members and patrons for supporting our channel. It really helps a lot. And if you enjoyed this video, just gently tap the like button and subscribe to our channel not to miss more content about how to excel and thrive in Canada. See you next time. Oh, and if you're interested in our personal home buying story, you can check it out here next. See ya!